Hello all. I thought on this video I'd give a little bit of background on my layout, what I'm trying to do, where it's located, what am I actually modeling. What you see in front of you is a map of all the railways in the Netherlands. Zoom out. So it's a map of the country, but instead of roads we have all the main rail lines, well actually all the rail lines in the country. And because of the light it's a little bit shiny, I realize, but what I'm modeling basically is a main line from Amsterdam down through Utrecht, then Bos to Eindhoven to Venlo. Here's the border with Germany, and then we have trains going on into the rest of Europe. Okay, I'll lift the light off, gives a little bit better view of the map. Now I've got some branch lines. Amsterdam to the seaport and steelworks is this branch line. This is the one you've seen recently. There's a loop here going to the steelworks and back. There's a branch line going to the new city of Almere here. There's actually a branch line which is a loop heading around through North and South Holland, which is actually the lower level staging loop, heading around here and then heading back to Amsterdam. The actual track would be to Utrecht here, but I've made a little bit of liberty here, and so I've got a loop going around here, going back to Amsterdam, so we can head back off to the main line, down the main line. There's another branch line between Venlo and Eindhoven. Heads up that way. Heads up towards the Rotterdam area with the refineries and the sugar mill as well, and then heads back up to Amsterdam. So this is what I'm modeling. Main line, Amsterdam, down through the centre of the country to Eindhoven, to the border at Venlo, rest of Germany. Then 4 branch lines, a branch line going to the new town of Almere, it's basically a commuter, and some industries. The main seaport loop going to the steel mill, etc., and power plants here. Then we have a loop, which is not really modelled, but is the staging area and return loop going through North and South Holland here. And then finally there's a branch line going from the Venlo area through the south of Holland, through Rotterdam, to pick up the refineries and sugar mill, and that heads back onto the main line towards Amsterdam again. There are 2 yards. There's a main yard at Venlo. I'll show you a picture of that. That's marshalling goods trains between the Netherlands and the rest of Europe. It's quite a big yard. I think it's got 20 tracks. And the other main yard, which is modelled here near Amsterdam but is actually here near Rotterdam, is the yard called Kijfhoek. Kijfhoek. That's the main marshalling yard of the country, and it has about 50 tracks. And it collects all the traffic from the industries near the coast and puts them together into large freight trains heading off toward Germany and the rest of Europe. So that's the basic area that I'm trying to model as well as I can. Alright, let's start at the middle. Amsterdam Central Station and Kijfhoek Yard. They're the sort of the central points of the layout. From Amsterdam, trains, particularly passenger trains, will go down the helix, come out at the lower level. They can be staged here, or they will return basically a loop of North and South Holland, returning back as if they'd stopped and picked up passengers, returning back to Amsterdam, ready to go on their outbound journey. The outbound journey, the main line, goes around here and then goes into the second helix, which brings the trains up to the top level. And here is then Eindhoven station, which will be the next stop for intercities, and international trains will motor on through. Then at the rear then the main line continues, and we pick up Venlo station, which is the last station in Holland. The international trains will continue on into Europe, and the intercities will return. Basically there is again a reversing loop here with a hidden set of tracks. Here the international trains will then park here in a hidden area as if they've gone into Europe, and the intercity trains will come out fairly quickly via the reversing loop and head back into Venlo station, pick up passengers, head back on the double main, back to Eindhoven station here, then down the helix, come out here, pass through industries here, and then pass back into one of the platforms, one of the tracks at Amsterdam Central. That'll be basically the routes for the main intercities and international passenger trains. Okay, brief explanation of commuter trains. There's a stub end siding here at Amsterdam Central for one of the commuter trains. It will terminate here, head out on the main line, up the helix, come out here, stop at Eindhoven station, and then take the branch line here to a terminus of Almere, the Newtown area, and will then return the same way. So they're two-way commuter trains. Return back to Amsterdam. Another commuter train will head out this way and will basically do a loop here to the seaport, bringing workers basically to all the industries here, to this station, Velzen station, and then return via the reversing loop, return back to Amsterdam, and then may head on to Eindhoven and back. It'll depend on how I plan the commuter train routes. As described in the geographical view, there are two main yards basically at the end of each of the main line. Kaifuk yard, which is the main western area yard collecting all the goods trains. Here the yardmaster will make up yard transfer trains, which will be long goods trains. They will then take the route to get to Venlo yard, which will be as follows. They'll go out of the yard here onto that red track, take the main, go down the helix, go through the Pfeiffer yard, return, and then return up through the helix, take the main going to the east as it were, then the through track here, which is the purple track here between the blue and the red, take the through track onto the main. Of course won't stop at any stations on the way, go up the helix to the top level and won't stop at Eindhoven either. They'll continue along the main. They won't stop at Venlo either unless they need to. And then they'll come in to Venlo yard here on the arrival track there. They'll complete the yard transfer from Kaifuk to Venlo, and of course the yard transfer from Venlo to Kaifuk will be the same, but in the reverse direction. So there'll be a couple of at least a couple of yard transfer trains going either way in an operating session. Alright, looking at the two operating scenic levels. the mid and the top level, there'll be local freight trains set out and pick up locals, one or two for each level, operating out of the yard at that level. So for the mid-level, we'll have local trains picking up cars at the yard, made up on their particular siding, and they'll pick up those cars, then head out. One local will head out and then come into the steel and power plant area here and drop off and pick up any cars that are here, and then head back to the yard. Another local will pick up any cars that are required for the seaport area, and then pick up and set out any cars on the seaport sidings here, and then also head back through the reversing loop back on the red line here, and then back into the yard, and then leave the cars with the yard master for reclassification. Finally, another local will head out the other way. It'll head out here. It'll do a loop of this area here so that it can turn around and then head back on the red track here, which is the passing track past the yard, then head out on the main, and then we'll stop here on this siding to service the brewery here, the fuel distribution point here, to service the feedstock at Veendam, the Four Farmers feedstock plant, and what will become a sugar beet and or potato loading facility for produce in this area. Pick up any cars that need to be picked up, and then head back. They'll run around their train and then head back on the main line through the passing siding here between the red and the blue. Continue on, do the reversing loop here, and then head back to the yard, arriving at the red track, and on clearance from the yard master will then drop into the yard on the correct siding and drop their cars. So that's the locals at this mid-level. There will also be locals operating out of the top level, operating out of Venlo Yard. So the yard master at Venlo Yard will classify cars on the sidings here. There's also an interchange track for the rest of Europe, so there'll be various produce goods that will be set out on the interchange track here, and they will be assumed to be picked up by German locomotives and distributed further in Germany and the rest of Europe. For local operation, locals will pick up cars, the particular sidings, and then they will head out on the branch line here, which is this first line, on the Rotterdam branch here, and then on this passing siding they can stop. They can then service the sugar mill, which is here, United Sugar. That'll be sugar beets in season, molasses exported, or sugar, and in season also coal for the boiler. And they also service here forward facing the Rotterdam refinery area with SOBP Shell refineries, and that'll be mostly tanker trains, picking up tankers, dropping off empty tankers to be filled, etc. And then they'll run around their train and head back to the yard with their cars for reclassification. Another local will pick up cars for the automobile facility. It can head out also on the branch line, or it can take the main line. The branch line will follow across the bridge here and then come into the industrial area around Eindhoven. The Nedcar stamping and auto assembly plant. Coil steel will be dropped off here for the stamping plant. Scrap steel will be picked up. Auto parts can be dropped off, etc. And on the sidings here, finished automobiles will be picked up on auto racks back to the yard. On this side we have a coal mine, Ruhr coal, and we have Arnhem quarry, sand and gravel pits, and the Eindhoven fuel and distribution center somewhere here. So they can be switched out, and the train can be made up again. The locomotive would run around and would then cross over and head over on the main, through Venlo station here and back to the yard, where of course then the cars can either be set out on the interchange or made up for yard transfer to Kaifuk for industries that are there. So that's the local train operations on the upper level. Trying to get most industries working together that they would have to use both yards and the yard transfer to make interesting operations. So the coal mine is on the upper level. Up here, completed loaded coal cars will be picked up by the local here and brought to Venlo yard here, where the yard master and local switches would then build a yard transfer train including the coal cars, and they would be with the yard transfer would then be brought to Kaifuk. At Kaifuk, then they would be split up, and the locals would then pick up the coal cars and bring them to the coal burning power plant here. So for operations, I'm trying to get most industries to have quite a bit of car handling, and so that a car coming from one industry would go through both yards, would need to be reclassified, transferred, broken up, and then taken by a local to industry on its particular level, basically for interesting operations. So that's the idea behind the design of the layout, trying to fit it into some sort of geographical footprint that has some meaning. The towns have some meaning. The industries do exist and have meaning, but obviously it's freelanced. I'm not trying to actually build a model of actual track and actual industries, but basing it on the information that's available generally, and hoping for some interesting operations. It's a European setting, so there'll be lots of passenger trains running to timetable, and with a fast clock the freight operations will need to take care that they don't interrupt the passenger trains too much. So it all makes for an interesting couple of hours of operation, I would think. At least I'm hoping so, anyway. Anyway, if anybody has any suggestions, ideas, love to have them. Okay, thanks for watching, and again, comments appreciated. Bye.